Hi everybody, this is Andrew with Rasant Products. Rasant Products is focused on bringing modern technology to your classic air-cooled Porsche 911. We're focused on improving both performance and reliability in these vintage cars. I'm here with a 3.8-liter engine we've put together. This is based on a 964 3.6-liter engine. We've increased the bore size, we've added an upgraded oil pump, billet cams, and custom pistons. This makes for a really fun street or track machine. So you can see we have some nice bolt-on parts. This is a GT3 muffler from a water-cooled car. This is the Rasant Products intake system. It actually has a GT3 Porsche plenum with some of our own design components, including the center sections, individual throttle bodies, an idle air control system, and the fuel system. We've paired this all with a Motec plug-and-play engine management system. This is something we put together to take the guesswork out of upgrading your engine's computer. What this includes is a complete plug-and-play wire harness manufactured here in-house, an ignition system, fuel system, and all the required sensors. So what I'd like to go through today is actually setting up our Motec engine management system. One of the questions we get asked most often is how do we sync the ignition timing? We need to teach the ECU the position of the engine, and what we use is cylinder 1. Cylinder 1 has indicating marks on the crank pulley for Z1, which indicates the top of the stroke for cylinder number 1. So, the tools we'll need to figure this out is our timing light. We'll use a spark plug extension wire. You'll need your laptop and the Motec UTC's adapter port. And what this does is allow your laptop to communicate directly with the connector that we've supplied in the harness. It might seem daunting at first, but it's a pretty straightforward process. I'm hoping by the end of today's video, you guys will all feel comfortable setting up and running your engines for the first time. So let's get started. The first tool we'll need is our spark plug extension wire. As I mentioned, this is going to go in cylinder number 1. So let's go ahead and remove the ignition coil. We'll install the end onto the spark plug, and then the other end into our ignition coil. The next thing we want to do is install the current clamp from our timing light. So on mine, I have a direction where the spark plug is supposed to be. So it says spark plug to the right. I'm going to make sure to install this in the correct orientation. Let's get our timing light connected. These just run off of 12 volts if you haven't used them. All right, that's powered up. Let's get our UTC port installed in the harness. So this has a small cylindrical connector that will connect. Finally, one of the most important things we need to do is remove the relays. What we want to have is only the ECU and the upper ignition coils powered up during this process. We don't want to be injecting any fuel and have combustion at the wrong time. So let's go ahead and remove those relays. All right, so we have relay number 1 and relay number 3 installed. So the next step, we're going to go over to the laptop, and I'm going to show you a split screen. You'll see the laptop on one side, and then you'll see what the timing light shows on the crank pulley on the other side. I'm hoping this process will help clarify some of the things as people get started.
Let's take a quick look at the Motec software interface. This program is the Motec ECU Manager. We can see on the center of the screen, there's a Motec with M84 written on it. This software package is specific to the M84 ECU. On the bottom left, we can see a red box that says ECU not connected, unable to find a USB or CAN connection to the device. So we're going to go ahead and turn the power on, and we'll see we have a green box now with M84 connected and the current software version. On the top left, we can go Open ECU for online editing. This is where we go to start changing parameters on the ECU. So it's going to prompt you about a file name. When we send the ECUs, they all come with base maps. So choose a proper file name and location on your computer for this software. So when you open it up, there are a few tabs on the top. There's a standard tab, ignition tab, lambda tab, fuel, and a spare. We'll go through those real quick. The standard tab is kind of a generic data set for you to see. So we have RPM, map signal, air temp, engine temp, battery voltage. If you want a quick look at all of the engine's characteristics at one time, you can see it on this standard tab. In ignition, we're modifying only the ignition table. We have a breakdown here of load, which is in this case throttle position, and columns of RPM. And on the bottom right, we have a 3D graph to see what our plot looks like. This one is for lambda table, and with the Motec M84, you can set target lambda values. We have a fuel tab, which is the fuel table. Similar to ignition, we have efficiency percentage, which is the throttle position, and in the columns, we have RPM again. On the bottom right, we have a 3D table of the fuel values, and we can see we have a few parameters here to monitor as we're setting up the fuel table. I'm going to go back to our standard tab. I like to work in this window, and you'll see as we pull up new adjustment parameters, they're going to pop up in this center window area here. So let's go ahead and go adjust. We'll go ignition, crank index position. And this is where we go to modify the ECU's understanding of where top dead center is. With the crank index position of 0, the ECU assumes that cylinder 1 top dead center is right after the 2 missing teeth of the crankshaft. So we know that's likely not the case, so we're going to go through and we'll use our timing light to figure out exactly where this is happening. This crank index position is an offset value for the ECU in units of degrees. We can set the test advance to any value we needed. Let's say your timing light is fixed at 5 degrees. You'd want to enter in 5 degrees here, and it'll lock the ignition timing to 5 degrees as you're doing this process. So let's get started. Let's start with our crank index position at 30 degrees. We'll crank for a second and watch the timing light. So I can't see our white paint marker, but I can see one of the indicators. It looks like we might be 120 degrees out. Let's go ahead and add 100 degrees to this. Let's go to 130. So changing the crank index position is a 1-to-1 to the position of the crankshaft. Okay, so we can actually see our white paint marker. It looks like we're still a little bit advanced. Let's add a few degrees. Okay, I can see we're flashing at the right time. This is a good point to go ahead and try and start your engine. Being a 4-stroke engine, there's a chance that you could be out by 360 degrees. What this would mean is that cylinder number 1 is coming up on the exhaust stroke instead of the compression stroke. If that's the case, you'll likely have backfiring when you go to start the engine. With the Motec ECU, you just adjust the crank index position by 360 degrees. We're going to go ahead and put the relays back in on this engine and see if it'll fire up. We'll cycle the key to build fuel pressure and try and start. as the engine was running, we did a little bit more to tune the ignition timing. This is a good time to make final tweaks. Leave your timing fixed and make small adjustments as necessary. You can see as the engine was running, I was making small adjustments on the ignition timing. As soon as it fires up, use your timing light to verify and make the small adjustments as necessary. That's all I have for today. I hope that was a good introduction to getting your engine started with the Motec ECU. At this point, we would focus on tuning the fuel tables. Feel free to contact us with any questions as you set up your systems, or if you're interested in purchasing an engine management system. Thanks for watching our video today.